Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto link and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Arwin, Neil, 10th Man, Adam, Chocolate Saiyan, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, good
morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello, good to have you all. Should we do a bit of housekeeping for real? Like we haven't done it for a few days. We've
Absolutely
focused on one question at a time, which is also nice, but also good to get through housekeeping as a fairly concise full list. I've taken everyone off mute in Discord if you want to join in with the fun. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Nope. Only considerations.
We destroyed the geometry though, so those geometric considerations, yeah, they went in 2020 though, didn't they? What geometric considerations? There is no geometry. We debunked it.
But they could still consider it, right?
Consider what?
We didn't even have to destroy it. Their own math destroyed their geometry.
What's to consider in physical terms, Arwin?
That they could think of the horizon as Earth curve?
Yeah, but it isn't, because Earth curve would put its limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and it isn't. So
I know, but just because it isn't doesn't mean that you can't think of it as such.
Yeah. Arvin's got a good point here because it crossed Chocolate's point. Because your response to Arvin was it doesn't match the limitations set by R. We can't see the Earth curvature. But Arvin says, yeah, but you can think of it. And he's right. That's what they're all thinking. They're all thinking it is curved.
Okay, by that standard, you can think that unicorns' farts produce a layer that contains gas here. You can think that. You can think a lot of things. But that's a very low standard, let's be honest.
Yeah, it's not as he said, it's not true, but you can think of it. They want to live on the globe, Nathan. Let them.
No. Let's get this clear.
Right, if they want to stay canon.
Hold on. Apologists for anti-flat Earth behaviour. No, not at all. There is a clear, concise rhetoric in regards to what Earth curve is. It's the horizon at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It's a physical obstruction to your view. It's the thing that boats fall over, according to globe Earth rhetoric. There's no, well, it isn't, but I can still think of it as being something else. No. If you choose to think of it as anything other than a physical obstruction that we've debunked at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, you're a heretic. That's it. That's all you.
But that's why they don't. That's my point.
They are
just because it
anti-flat
isn't
earthers.
doesn't mean that you can't think of it as such. They have to. Otherwise, you become a heretic.
Yeah, they being anti-flat earthers, Arwin. Right? They're on their own.
No.
In their separated from globe Earth rhetoric belief in that regard. There are a very small handful of people that know the globe doesn't work and still choose... Who's making that audio noise? It's Neil, of course.
Neil!
I don't know how I'm off mute. Sorry.
A small handful of people that have a different belief to the actual globe Earth rhetoric. Now, when you say, and I want to focus on this, I'm not agitated with what you're saying, I'm glad you're saying it, because it gives me the opportunity to point out that anything that deviates from that makes you a heretic. There's not a fine line to toe. There's a clear, concise claim of sphericity, and that claim is a physical limitation to your view at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. It's known as the horizon, and it is claimed to be a physical obstruction that blocks boats and buildings. Now, if you aren't in line with that, you're on your own in a separate fundamentalist religious belief that you've made up, with maybe a few people around you arguing with flat earthers about how your individualistic ideas of what Earth curve at the horizon is. That's not the globe Earth belief. It's just
No,
heresy.
you're right.
Yeah, but you're bypassing my point, though, because that's exactly what I wasn't doing. What I was saying, like, no, they're not claiming it's something else. The real ballers have to hold on to the geometric consideration, even as the real world example is disproven through the Black Swan. They just have to forget about it or not touch it.
No. You can't. You know, at that point, you can appreciate that your faith in it has been tarnished, but express your faith beyond the contradiction to your faith. That's what you can do, if you choose to.
Nathan, we're saying that it's almost the same thing. We're just creating a third category. There's the globers who have to stick to the globe rhetoric. These aren't the people we're talking about, because they would be heretics. They'd be saying what I believe doesn't match up. But now if you say, but I still want to believe it, that's what the third category is, the anti-flat earthers. They'll contradict their mother just to believe it.
What? No, but this is getting confusing, because I think completely differently. I think that the anti-flat earthers are the ones that are trying to explain away why it doesn't seem to be geometric, and that's why they invented terrestrial refraction.
Right.
That's non-canon. But if they just ignore it and just say, no, it is geometric, I am considering, and I will keep considering,
hold on.
then they're ballers.
Hold on, you said it was non-canon. Did you want to add something, Adam? Sorry.
Yeah, just because Alwyn's brilliant. But after yesterday, where I thought we'd agreed the opposite,
yeah,
that was beautifully slipped in. Alwyn.
Yes,
nice.
I that's why I stopped him in his tracks. Yes, yeah. Adam.
Snap.
No, terrestrial refraction is very much canon.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is. With respect to the target, that's canon. It's on screen now.
No.
I know it hasn't got refraction in this diagram. Needless to say, my point, which is now veered onto refraction of targets with respect to the horizon. Oh, where's my diagram gone? Oh.
Adam, put it back up, Adam.
No, it's me. My presentation stopped. Resume your presentation. Okay. So obviously, something's gone strange with my. Oh no, it's just carried on past the slide I was on. Oh, okay. It's me going nuts. In any event, Earth curve is Earth curve. If you want to refract targets, that's canon. If you want to refract the horizon, it isn't.
Right, but that's actual refraction, right? It's not terrestrial refraction.
No, we've got in the old Mick West Metabunk. Okay, so there's a couple of additions he puts in, and one is the refracted horizon. That was never in there before. It was always a geometric thing, and things were refracted with respect to it. So that I would say is non-canon.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Everything
so
else
then
was,
terrestrial refraction isn't?
No.
But everything else was refracted with 7/6R with respect to the horizon. That's why Riley had to lay down on the beach. Yeah. That's why it was so important. That's why it was impossible for them, for those images that Riley got, to be achieved with him on his belly, because the horizon was the geometric limitation. So he couldn't. There was not enough refraction. It was impossible for him to do it. That was their claim until he did it. That's when Rumpus, and then it's after Mick West gets a battering that the horizon becomes refracted as well, and it moves.
At which point you don't have the physical geometry to assert that you've got a limitation in the Earth curve maths, because what the Earth curve maths is attempting to prove, the clues in the title, is Earth curve. Well, the way they prove it is by how much it's blocked. something in the distance. And they give you feet and inches values for how much they claim the horizon has blocked something in the distance. Now, when it doesn't quite work out with how much it's blocked by Earth curve and its physicality, they refract the targets with respect to the Earth curve, that the whole point of the maths is that it's trying to prove that the horizon's a physical limitation to your view. A hill called Earth curve. The moment you refract the Earth curve, what's your geometric limitation that's being proven when you go through this mathematical process? Well, there isn't one. Because the Earth curve that you're claiming, look, how much it's blocked this boat or building by, well, no, it's no longer a physical limitation. It's a refracted position that could be beyond the thing it's supposed to be blocking, making the entire claim absurd. So they've never got to the point where they refract the horizon as well. Otherwise, what are they proving? They're not proving Earth curve anymore. They're proving the horizon moves with the weather? You know what I mean? It becomes absurd. Not that it wasn't already.
Okay, so then the anti-flat earthers have claimed that the horizon can be displaced and that the horizon basically isn't geometric, right? That's anti-flat earth claim. So there is sort of a terrestrial refraction that is canon, but it doesn't claim that the horizon is not the actual horizon. So it's like a middle road then that is still canon, that isn't effectively being applied.
Well, your
Right? Because
phraseology is just off slightly.
do think that the horizon is
God, it doesn't
displaced.
stop. Yeah, your phraseology is just off slightly. They're not trying to prove the horizon isn't the horizon or the horizon is the horizon. They're trying to prove the horizon is Earth curve, a physical limitation to your view, a tangent point to a sphere in geometric terms. That means it's got to be a tangent line to it when you describe it as a physical limitation. Now, this is why Rumpus wasn't allowed to return to the show, because he knew it full well while he was arguing for the limitation to your view at the horizon called Earth curve, knowing damn well that it was a refracted non-geometric position. Well, that's just what he uses in his sleeve of magic tricks when he gets caught out with a black swan. Well, the horizon's refracted, so not blocking boats and buildings and the Isle of Man then. A non-physical position. We're not going to calculate how much it's blocked those buildings by. Oh yeah, well it was on that day. Yeah? No, that's not what he said. He said it was always refracted. In other words, he lied. He had no choice. But at the point that this rhetoric leaves you in the necessity to lie, it won't become canon, and hasn't become canon. Mick West might have slipped it into his Earth curve calculator, but it literally makes a farce of the claim you're making in the first instance. How are you proving that the Earth's a sphere? Well, because we've got an Earth curve limitation at the horizon. Oh, so it limits stuff. Yeah, unless it doesn't limit stuff and is beyond it. Ta-da! Doesn't quite work, does it?
Right.
Well, it can't be Earth curve either because you wouldn't be able to get angle measurements to derive the geometry to begin with.
Well, I think I get it now. So the original terrestrial refraction didn't attempt to suggest that the horizon was displaced,
No.
just everything else. And then the anti-flat earthers basically took it and kind of used it as a blunt weapon, even though it wasn't meant as such, against the black swan.
Yes.
And then topped it with the claim that the horizon itself also displays. And that's the terrestrial
Yes.
refraction that we got to know, but it isn't the official one, even.
No, that's not the terrestrial refraction we got to know. A derivation or bastardization of 7/6R with respect to the horizon. These are geometric utilizations of an R value that you can't acquire if you don't have a geometry to acquire it from. The moment you bend the line to the horizon, it's no longer a tangent point, which destroys the geometry. Because that's what it's based on. It's based on Earth having a physical limitation at a tangent point. It's Earth curve geometry. Not Earth curve optics. Now, when they bait and switch you and go, well, optics come into effect, there are no optics in Earth curve maths.
Well, I guess that I learned something new today. I hadn't
Well,
realized
the
about terrestrial refraction.
Did I quote Rumpus? Did I quote him already? Quote, you know it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon. End quote. That was during the Isle of Man discussion. Fast forward to 2021. I always said the horizon was refracted. Yeah, total lie. Right? You can't have it both ways. You know the target's refracted because it's positionally with respect to Earth curve I'm trying to prove, versus Earth curve I'm trying to prove can move around with the bloody weather.
There's something else too.
Go ahead. After Mike 808 gets a shout out. Thanks for the super chat. Go ahead, John.
Well, Earth can't be curving because you need the angles to start the geometry.
You did say, and we
so
completely
Earth
whistled
needs to
past
be
it.
flat.
Any evidence you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? John's saying you can't have a curved baseline because where would you get angle measurements from? And he's right. This whole assertion of Earth having a sphere edge, which was a 2015, 16, 17 argument that then died on its arse, completely died on its arse and was buried completely in 2020, all require flat planes to make the assertion. Well, if you're going to have angles utilised, you're not going to have a curved surface to be getting them from. So Earth as a sphere violates the celestial sphere model. Want to add anything else to that, John? Excellent point.
No, I mean that's kind of it.
You're going to need a flat plane, folks. You can't assert Earth curve. It violates the celestial sphere model. In fact, your Earth curve assertion and presupposition that violates the celestial sphere model was derived from the celestial sphere model and flat planes that made it. Nathan, can you ask David, if I can have that 3 Bitcoin? It's obvious no globe believer will be able to claim it. Just look at the clowns we have in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla. No, I'm not going to ask Dave Weiss for 3 Bitcoin. If I did, it'd probably make him cry going on the prices of Bitcoin at the moment. So, any evidence we can acquire an elevation angle from a curved baseline?
Well, if you could, you wouldn't need all these horizontal planes and tangent planes and all these flat surfaces that all these guys that believe we live on a spherical surface keep bringing up. So, obviously, we don't need the ball, the little dingleberry that's sitting underneath a horizontal plane. We don't need that. And they don't need that. So, there you go.
Yep. Akumo Virus yesterday in the chat was saying, "Oh yeah, no, I can do that." And then when I asked the question specifically, so how do you attain that elevation angle with the with a curved baseline? And then he just kept rolling around it like he wasn't going to answer it. I asked it 3 times, and then at the end he said, like, "Why would I answer that?" Like that.
Right.
Yep.
Because he said he could do
He
it.
he always does that. He says stuff to
Oh, here he goes again. in the
mock
chat.
it. Well, hang on. He says stuff to mock us. Then we say, all right, I'll give him one more chance. Okay, Virus, what about this? And then he says, what? And then he goes about 5 different typings, and then finally he says, why would I ever answer that? He just plays around. He's a joke.
Remember how direct Zanuck was when I asked him? When I said, what if we wanted to switch it up and use the sphere first? And he said, yeah, just assume a flat plane. Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah, we've got to assume a flat plane.
Yeah. Even if you want to use the sphere first, yeah, we got to use a flat plane. Oh, okay. Which you wouldn't have on a spherical surface, but okay. No problem. Glober.
Yeah, and when he says that, Chocolate, he doesn't realize what he's really admitting to, that the GP of the star, sun, or moon, 3,000, 2,000, 1,000, whatever the radius distance is from the first circle of equal altitude, that's on that flat plane all the way to you at your zenith position as the observer. It's like they admit to it, then they'll realize, uh-oh.
So Gene has a question. Says Globies on TikTok are eating your lunch. Average 600 to 1,300 viewers. No, but thank you for the super chat. No, I mean, if you see your average Globe Believer video, will do 10x what any video I ever produce ever will do. You know, my best video on my best day got less than 100,000 views. That's my most popular video. So your average guy talking about how he feels about a picture of the Earthrise nonsense, that'll get you 1 million views. So just because Globers are doing really well on TikTok, I don't know. I've looked into it, Jean. I still don't think it's the right time to move to TikTok. I've got to be honest. But I do periodically look at it, like I said last time. But I appreciate your super chat. I really, really do. Thank you very much indeed.
TikTok is very strict. Really going to be hard.
I haven't looked at their regs and rules. I haven't got that far. I don't know how strict they are. That's something I would definitely take into consideration before I did anything. But at this stage, it's like, is it going to be worthwhile? At the moment, I don't think so. That may change. Like I say, I periodically look at TikTok and other platforms as well. Not that I can promote them here. You get banned from YouTube if you promote people to go to other platforms. As it should be, you know, you want to retain your audience on your website, and that's what YouTube are doing. They say, no, if you're on here using our facilities to make money and make us money and advertisers money and all the rest of it, then that cog needs to keep turning on our page, not on someone else's. So there we go. Anyway, yeah, I say it one more time. Thank you very much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Jean.
They can't truly delete flat Earth from history because without it, they don't have a globe.
You can't erase the reality of reality. If they did absolutely nothing, people would eventually figure it out of their own volition. I just think that's the way it is. Shout out to Hillside, who says, flat baseline. Quote, it's not an assumption, it's a prerequisite. End quote. Nathan Oakley. Definitely one of my favourite quotes. Oh, well, thank you very much. Really appreciate the support. Thank you very much for the super chat, Hillside. Sorry, John. You continue. My bad.
I'm just saying that the globe is a flat Earth religion. It requires a flat Earth. They can't get rid of flat Earth. They can't make flat Earth illegal to talk about, or their religion is in trouble.
I don't know if history is true, then maybe they can.
And where will they get their angle measurements for their globe?
I have to ponder this for a few seconds.
I answered that in the pre-show presentation, where they get it from.
Yeah, they get it from a plane. I appreciate that. What John's saying, though, is they lack the ability to punish us. So they can suppress us, but they can't punish us. Because if they're punishing us, they're... I don't know, biting the hand that feeds them is the right way of phrasing it, but if you're, as the super chat just quoted me on, if you have a prerequisite to get angles from a flat plane, then the flat plane's a necessary part of your model. So you can't persecute somebody for saying, well, the prerequisite section of your model was flat, and I'll just leave the rest of it, because I don't need it. Plus, it makes a complete mockery of the angle measurement. So you can't persecute.
Well, John is
Flat Earth is the necessary antecedent to the globe.
Yeah, that's what John is saying. It's the original canon for it.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way of looking at it. Like I say, I have to ponder this for a little while, because we are certainly suppressed. But no, nobody's ever been punished, and I've highlighted that on many of occasions when people talk about us being, choose my words carefully, censored. And I say, well, not necessarily. And then I'll give a load of examples of where we're not censored, and a comparison where somebody is very specifically censored, and then a rule change will even be introduced in YouTube to stop them talking about a very specific thing in a very specific way. And if they do, they get banned, they get removed, they are censored in a very real way. We haven't suffered that. I've suffered attacks. The channels have suffered major attacks in the past. I've been under copyright strikes 20-fold from people attacking me. Now, that's not YouTube doing that. That's just arseholes doing that don't want me here. Because we're showing where their globe's wrong, and they don't like it. But that doesn't mean that I feel like I'm actually being censored, like the channel's shut down because I've said the Earth's flat. I don't feel that there's any beyond the perception that some might have, there's any actual consequences to saying that. You might be ridiculed by your fellow man, but that's just some next man, that's your neighbour, right? Being a neighbourly type, that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to do it, and I don't think we are not allowed to do it. I wouldn't be here claiming it's an evergreen topic that we'll always be able to talk about every day of the week, and we do, if it wasn't an evergreen topic that we are allowed to talk about. So I think John's right.
They can't get rid of us without getting rid of themselves.
John's right, but the problem is most normies aren't ready for that chapter of the conversation. Most of them aren't even ready to understand that their geometric horizon, aka the Earth curve, it's not a geometric location. It's not a physical obstruction to their view. It's just an apparent location. They're not ready for that. So how are they going to be ready for your entire heliocentric model came from elevations taken off a flat horizontal plane?
Chocolate just said you're not ready for is the statement as follows. The horizon is not Earth curve.
Is Adam still here?
He's on the panel.
Yeah, exactly. They're not ready for that. Because I get people that look at me with like I have 3 heads when they say that. Because most of them don't even understand that the horizon is supposed to be the Earth curve. You have to get to that before you can even explain to them how it's not the Earth curve. So then I've said it to a couple of my coworkers, the entire globe came from elevation angles taken off a flat plane. And they look at me like I have 6 heads then. I'm like, all right, I know. I get it. You're not ready.
Yeah, you put in tip of the spear arguments to normies. It does sound amusing.
Oh, it is. It is.
We're here. We don't need to. We don't need to concern
great.
ourselves. I appreciate the information being disseminated from your experience. That's wonderful. But by the same token, right now, with however many over 100 people watching, woohoo! We don't have to concern ourselves with that. I don't think we will ever be put in front of the normies ever again. Just like, here's flat Earth. Like, you might be interested in these cat videos. Or you might be interested in what was I offered recently by YouTube. Some law-related stuff. That's just never going to happen. So we don't have to concern ourselves that the tip of the spear arguments are going to be over the head of the normies. I know I sometimes try and dumb it down, and I pretend that it's because there might be normies here. It's just because some people won't understand, regardless if they're normies or not. It's complicated stuff.
Well, the horizon, if I may, the horizon is either geometric or optical. And since John has already said, again, elevation angle measurement destroys the sphere model, then it must be optical. It can't be geometric.
And their model's only geometric. There's only one claim of what the Earth curve edge horizon is caused by, and that's the physical Earth curve geometry. Well, that's nothing to do with optics, and everything to do with feet and inches values in Muppet vision, orthographic view, not receding into the distance, staying the same fixed size, and then the only reason they ever disappear is because of Earth geometry, physical tangent points called Earth curve getting in the way. That's their only assertion. So there are no optics, as I said earlier, maybe in the pre-show. There's no optics in Earth curve maths. The targets don't change size with distance. That's optics. That doesn't happen. So when they start talking about refraction and refractive effects in optics, it's like, your Earth curve maths doesn't have optics. It's Muppet vision. You see in the side of your own head, that's nothing to do with what I see with my eye.
But in the real world, not their world, but the real world, especially myself, because I did have a boat for 2.5 years and was on the Pacific Ocean weekly, going to Catalina and other fishing areas. Sometimes I saw really far, sometimes not too far, sometimes fogged in, couldn't see much at all. So what in my real world experience with my real world eyes, I see a horizon that's changing distances based on weather.
Notice, audience, what he didn't say is another one of those times of appealing as though there's normies. He didn't say he sees too far. He said, sometimes I see really far. He didn't say too far. Now, I highlight this because some people on the flat earth side of the argument will assert that we see too far. indicating to me and everyone on this panel that they've got a presupposition of a sphere Earth that they're not relinquishing, even though they claim to be a flat earther. Because too far implies that there should be an Earth curve limitation at the horizon, a physical limitation to block your view. So when that's not being blocked, it's too far? No. I don't work under the presupposition that I'm going to have a limitation to my view called Earth curve. Therefore, when I see really far, I just go, wow, I can see really far. Not, oh my God, Earth curve hasn't got in the way because it should have. No. Just want to point out 10th man's exceptionally good phraseology. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Hang on before you go. Adam, you want to show the 6 slides I sent you at this point on the offing?
It's probably
If
a
you could.
pertinent place to cover them. Let me just move me screen.
Sorry, Nathan, but this is really good based on what we're talking about.
It should be there now.
Okay, it's on screen.
The one I sent you, Adam, to your Skype. Those I went over in the pre-show.
All right, wait there then.
Oh, God, it's all going wrong.
No, it's okay.
Oh,
It's
it's all
okay.
falling apart.
Let's just end it all. Let's just shut it down.
There you go.
Go ahead, Adam.
So the offing. I like this because this was just built on what we found out. So offing, the deep, distant stretch of the ocean that is still visible from the land. And we remember that the offing is also synonymous with the horizon, that it's specifically the darker line, I think. So I like that again, because again, it's describing that the sea is visible. Feedback from Discord. Another one. Offing, adjective. The area of the sea in which a ship can be seen in the distance from land. That'd be equivalent to it sitting on the horizon. It's in the offing. I think there's another one that sums up the phrase very nice, doesn't it? Here we go. This phrase first appeared in the 16th century. The offing is the more distant part of the sea visible from the shore. It is a safe distance from land for a ship and is generally water that is too deep to anchor in. Something in the offing is impending, about to arrive, or likely to happen.
Like on the horizon in the offing is what we used to call, back in the days of the Isle of Man, the circle of confusion.
Ether band.
Ether band, right. There's loads of names for it. But yeah.
Is that the dirty air?
Yeah.
Dirty air. Yeah, there's another one. All of these things only have one assertion in the Earth curve mathematics. Do you know what the only assertion in the Earth curve mathematics is? Earth curve.
It's Earth curve.
Yeah, that's it. There's only one claim. Physical geometric limitation to your view. Go on.
Where's the offing here in this 2 platforms from Miramar Beach? Where's the offing?
I've got it in decent picture on my screen, so
just let me answer it though, Adam. Hold on. So in this picture of the black swan, the horizon itself is beyond the 2 oil rigs. So it's kind of a other way around situation. The oil rigs aren't in the offing. They're physically visible in their entirety, beyond the limitation that they would be claimed to be blocked by if the Earth was a sphere with a physical limitation. So they should be in the offing. They're not.
When BLMB does the video and zooms in, as you zoom in, there will be a point where they are in the offing, and as you continue to zoom in, the offing will move back, meaning they're not in the offing anymore. They're in the foreground. And as you can see in this picture, the offing is like where my cursor is here. Look, if I go across, you can see the rough horizon. It's better on the contrasted one, but you can see that the offing is way into the distance. The visible sea is way off into the distance.
How off is it in the next picture?
Before you go to the next picture, an example of the offing would be the Isle of Man from Anthony Riley's belly on the beach at about 36 miles distance. You can just make it out coming in and out of the horizon. So it's obviously something there. It's obviously land, but it's obviously not close to you.
No, and it's flickering a bit because it's in the offing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just an old-fashioned term that means stuff that you can kind of make out in the distance. Well, of making stuff out in the distance is repurposed as being physically blocked by an Earth curve edge limitation, geometric in nature, at the horizon.
Yeah. What's important is it's not describing. This old phrase is preclusive of any attribution to curvature or obstruction. Look, it's describing what it is. It's a word that has a lot of meaning, and it's continued in time. So it's why they've had to abandon it. The deep, distant stretch of the ocean that is still visible. Yeah. Well, these things, if we go to the Black Swan, what a gloriously clear day for how much is still visible. That is not commensurate with any form of ball mathematics, though. But like I said, the phrase itself is stating that it's a flat plate. I mean, it's not obvious, but within the inference of it, it is a flat plane because it's just describing the rest of the land, the rest of the sea that can be seen. It's still there, and you can just about make it, but it's still there in that zone. The rest of that plane is in that offing. Go to that next picture, 10th. Not seen this, so you'll have to.
Mitchell put this. Yeah, Mitchell put
There's
this
Mitchell
one
from Australia. Subscribe today to Mitchell from Australia. Can someone explain what this is? There's going to be people who haven't got a clue what's on screen right now.
Well, basically, he's got the Anacapa arch and rock in the top left, and then this shot shows left of platform Grace is that same Anacapa arch and rock right there to the left. Now that should not be seen whatsoever, but it's being seen. So because of the optics of the camera being better than the eye, the offing is way beyond the platform and right where these rocks are.
I see it now, yeah. So he's then used the back calculation, like with the Black Swan, for a new radius of 1.77 million miles, because we're able to put that offing at least a distance of 31. So if we are going to play ball, and you are going to ascribe the offing as your geometric limitation to your ball, and the implication at this point would be your radius value would jump from 3959 miles to 1.77 million miles.
Yeah, just a bit outside.
Shout out to Godzilla37. Bet you can't answer. What is more likely? Phil is a teacher or Earth is a globe? Phil, as in Prof. Phil Bell. I'm pretty sure Phil's taught. I believe him when he tells me that he's taught at various different universities. Why wouldn't I believe him in that regard? Godzilla. Thank you for the super chat, though. I don't think people are so brazen. Some people are. Psychopaths. Anyway, thank you for the super chat.
I think the sentiment from Godzilla is based on the answers he gives to the questions we pose, and since they're funny or non sequitur or just doesn't jive with reality, he's saying, how could someone like that be a professor? Well, there's tons of these people out there who actually believe what they're saying, even though it doesn't jive with reality.
Let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
There is an angular size measurement of the sun,
And is angular size measurement part of the globe maths, Nathan?
No, they have a
No,
single
so
line.
that means
Single line between observer and target, and you can't get angles from single lines.
so that means that a sun having an angular size on a globe Earth is impossible then, yes?
Yeah, I guess so. Well, an angular size would be an elevation angle, wouldn't it? If you're just measuring the angular size, you could just measure its size in the sky and give it in radians, though, couldn't you?
Yeah.
No, but you need to, no, you're missing the point. For something to have an angular size, it means that the perspective needs to be a reality.
In the context of globe Earth mathematics and their association with distant targets, those distant targets, when talking about Earth curve and its physical composition that they claim with Muppet vision, then no, there's no perspective in Earth curve mathematics. Further to that, you can't have perspective when you're utilising the celestial sphere model and just acquiring an angle from a flat plane. That's the only claim of a perspective drop, if you want to call the sun's movement towards the horizon a perspective drop. But you're specifically talking about taking just an angular size. I mean, I can give the size in arc seconds, or I can give it in all sorts of different degree measurements. If I just take that in isolation, I can just measure its angle in the sky, can't I? I don't follow your point.
No, you can't. Not on the globe Earth, you can't.
Not in their paradigm. In their mathematical paradigm of distant objects. You're correct. It's quite specific. It's hyper specific, though, isn't it, Brian?
Yeah, globe Earth maths are all orthographic maths. There's no frontal perspective globe Earth maths. All the frontal perspective is all flat Earth perspective. But they want to call it perspective at one time.
Said like that with the disclaimer.
Perspective. There is no.
Yeah, you've got to say it with the disclaimers, though. So you've got to say, in the orthographic world of Earth curve, there is no angular size measurement.
Well, that's the point. If the sun has an angular size, then it's not a globe. Because the globe mathematics state, just 1 second to chocolate, because the globe mathematics state that it can't have. Go on, chocolate.
No, I was just gonna say that's why you fixed it with it on the globe. You can't have angular size.
No, you can't. You can't have angles. Angles are when we measure with angles to anything, whether it be an angular size or the celestial body or whatever. Now, I'm not talking about slicing a cake, right? I'm talking about measurements in reality, right, of the Earth and things that we see, right? We are using frontal perspective. We are measuring perspective with those angles. Angles measure perspective. There is no perspective on a globe. The origin of the globe started with flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. So they could come up with an orthographic explanation as to why Polaris rises and drops in the sky. So, Nathan, does Polaris rise and drop in the sky due to perspective or Earth curve?
Gotcha.
Because it can't be both.
I've got perfect. I don't know if you were here in the pre-show when 10th had this last diagram. It's the last diagram in Master B. I'm just going to stick it up on screen for the audience and get rid of the chat. So, can you see this image, Brian?
No, but I go to Master B, Nathan.
Okay, so in Master B, you've got this picture of where you take your angle from the centre of the celestial sphere model with an angle marked out, and then they have a tangent plane sat on the top of it with a local angle to a flat plane, measured with respect to the zenith moving to the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Bit of a mouthful, but that's what the diagram depicts in two different places. Well, both are orthographic. That's the only way you can do this, right? The way that you can bastardise this flat Earth measurement is in an orthographic view. What Brian's saying is when you draw out these angles side on, yeah, there is no second line. So I'm going to highlight this on the zenith on the left-hand diagram. So if you say, let's just say for the sake of argument that you're stood at this position in the globe Earth paradigm, right, as they're depicting it in Muppet vision. Well, in this diagram, you've got a line from your position to the zenith. Let's say that the sun is at your zenith. Yeah? Well, that's a single line in this depictorial example. There's not two lines going out to the zenith if the sun was there. And they can't have, because all of these celestial bodies are placed in this Muppet vision at an infinite distance. Why? Well, because there is no perspective to account for. You just have one line. So what Brian's saying is the world of sphere-Earth mathematics always takes place in orthographic view, as does the celestial sphere model, probably no coincidence. And it all works fine until you appreciate that that excludes all aspects of perspective, because there's only one line going out to whatever you're measuring. So again in this, oh here we go, celestial North Pole. Yeah? So let's say that that's Polaris. Yeah? On this left-hand diagram. Well, if you're drawing a line out to Polaris to measure an angle against this local baseline, that's a single line to Polaris, not an angular size acquirable from that. It's one line. Right, Brian? And you can't have two lines. It's Muppet vision. You're not going to get angular representations out of this. If you draw the sun in the diagram, it would be about here on the top of this dome that's got a local flat plane attached to it, that's got a local flat plane from the celestial sphere model. Lots of local flat planes going on. Anyway, right, if you drew the North Star in this diagram, let's say I draw it where there's a H of north, so you've got celestial North Pole. Where H is, let's say that that's the depictorial example of Polaris, right? Well, you could draw it there, or you could draw it completely off the page. It wouldn't make any difference because you've only got one line to it. But if I do draw it here, and I draw it really big, I'll draw a really big Polaris. Yeah, it doesn't matter because you've only got one line going to it. You're not going to suddenly have a really wide line and a second really wide line for the angle to it. That's not possible in orthographic, which is where the globe takes place. So excellent point, Brian. It's been about 4 weeks for you trying to drive this point home. I finally got it. I told QE it takes me about 10 times. He didn't believe me.
Well, the thing about it is, Nathan, if you look at that diagram, you take any orthographic diagram where they show a globe, and if they put in a star, and especially if they label a star as one of the known stars, it's not just a random star, but if they call it Polaris or whatever, that star will be small. So they are adding in an angular size change to a star within their orthographic diagram that it can't have. But they're adding it in because in reality, we see a small light. Right now, with that small light, you can make all kinds of claims of what size and distance it is. But the point is that that's just speculation. Within their orthographic model, they can never show you a star being small. Like if they put a little star up above that globe there that we have there in orthographic view, like what is that star? It's not what they claim it to be because it can't be, because it can't have an angular size. Everything starts with the rise and fall drop rate of Polaris. That's where it was after that the whole 7/6 and all this other stuff had to come into it because they needed to keep, us looking, when we're looking out to sea and other places, they needed to hijack as many things as possible, visual and refractive effects and just optical effects as much as possible to keep people believing it's a globe. But in reality, what started the whole globe thing was flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. That's why Polaris rises and falls is either Earth curve or perspective. It's one or the other. And they have to put it into orthographic view to make it Earth curve. But then you can't have an angular size of Polaris or the sun or anything else. Nothing has angular size. Perspective does not exist. I know it's very simplistic, so it's hard to get across to people. Go on.
No, I love it when you first came out with it. I just want to go back to this illustration that Nathan has up. So this is Earth, and then they've got the snow globe on top of Earth, two different versions of the snow globe. Look at the snow globe where the equator is on both, and look at the Earth's equator. They match. The North Pole on both is straight up. The celestial North Pole is them saying the light comes in parallel. But if you were just to look at the celestial equator, which is from Earth's surface to infinite distance, well, there's no distance. You have to imagine the celestial sphere infinite distance away and the stars all on the inner concave part of it. Okay, so they're directly over every part of this. So all they did here was take the flat plane and move it on top of a circle.
Right. Any more on this?
Yeah. If you think about the claim of parallel light rays, that specifically requires something to be of a specific size at a specific distance, doesn't it? It means, it has to be a specific size at a specific distance. And that's all back calculated from their original observation, from the original flat Earth elevation angles of Polaris rising and appearing to rise and fall in the sky. But at that point, there is no angular size change. But there is angular size change when there needs to be for them. They switch between the two. Even with the rotographic view, they put in a little star up off the left of their little globe in the diagram. No, that star can't be little. That star has to be 1 billion times the size of your globe in the diagram. Your globe should be tiny and that star should be huge, if you want to do it that way. Because everything has to be its actual size in comparison to everything else. So when we look in the sky, if we're on a globe, the sun should be huge, Polaris should be massive, everything should be all these big, massive, huge things in the sky. That's what we should be seeing if it was a globe. I know it sounds crazy and ridiculous, but these are the actual geometric facts. I'm sorry.
As it didn't get answered, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Hang on. The distance to the sun is a back calculation from the angular size. You can take any claim they make about size and distance to the sun, and you can always turn it back into its angular size that we see. They can take the angular size, something that can't exist on their globe, and claim a size and distance to the sun with it by back calculation. It all started with an angular size measurement, something impossible on their model. There is no perspective. There is no angles. They don't exist. It can't exist because perspective doesn't exist. You can't measure perspective that doesn't exist. With angles, they can't exist. Yeah, the distance and size of their sun is all back calculated from an angular size of the sun in our sky, an average angular size throughout a 12-month period. You can make the sun any size and distance you want based off that angular size. That's all that's going on there. So no, there is absolutely no evidence of the distance to the sun. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can I change the topic slightly? Because someone in the chat about 10 minutes ago said 1,000 likes incoming because the likes are out of whack again. Well, I re-looked at why this might be happening, and I think I found my answer. So you can purchase likes, and likes are really expensive to purchase from what I've turned over with my research on this subject. Unlike subscribers, which from what I can establish, I don't know why, are much, much cheaper. I think what they try and do is rope you into buying subscribers, because that's the bit that most people are vain about. And then when people collar or spot the fact that you haven't got the interaction that you're supposed to have with the number of subscribers that you've got, they start buying likes. The people that buy them, not me. Anyway, that leads me to what the people who sell likes do to get around the algorithm. What they will do is they will spam like the person that's paid for likes, but also subscribe to and like other channels that are semi-associated with that channel. So if there's a similar type of channel with a similar type of audience base, the person that sold the likes and is therefore farming them, or whatever they call it when they're going out and spamming their client's video with likes, so that they don't get caught, they'll spam other videos around it, which also then end up with random spammed likes, so that they're not so obvious in what they're doing when they're selling these likes to these idiots that are so vain they want to just boost their numbers with no real attachment to any decent statistics. So, given that number one, I'm not buying the likes, and number two, this is the only bit I'm a bit grey area on, I can't imagine that somebody out there would want to purchase likes for this channel. So, as much as that could be a possibility, it seems very unlikely. It leaves me with the only other option, which is that there's somebody else out there in this neck of the woods that is buying likes and is buying subscribers, and when they are doing so at a considerable cost that I certainly wouldn't hand over for that stupid nonsense, they are also spam liking my channel. And to somebody who's out in the Far East doing this, they're not going to care that there's a massive mismatch in my ratios to likes to live viewers, so long as they fulfill whatever their person at the hierarchy of their office says, go out and spam like these videos. because they're getting paid to do so. So that is from research into other people that have found that are on YouTube that have been looked into, and other platforms for that matter. I think the one that gave me the most information was some model on Instagram, I believe, and she ended up having something like 1 million subscribers, but was getting like 0.01% likes or hearts or whatever it is they have on Instagram. I don't really know. But in any way, people could spot from that disparity that obviously there were fake subscribers. So I think that the people selling them have played on that idea, and then they make the likes and interaction much, much more expensive. Like I say, to not get caught out, they'll spam people around them with likes, which is why my videos end up with stupid numbers of likes. Now, so long as it's just likes, to be honest, I don't really look at the likes or dislikes. I never have. I've never really paid them much consideration, and I don't think they're that important, because anybody can come along and like you, and in this instance, people can come along and spam like you, making it completely meaningless. But when my view figures get distorted, I get quite angry. I have in the past when I'm like, woohoo, there's like 250 people watching. Hang on a minute, the chat rate's still only 18 chats per minute. That's wrong. That's annoying. That's going to throw my statistics out. Whereas with the likes, I'm like, oh, who cares? So long as it doesn't cause me any detriment, i.e. YouTube don't look over me going, oh, is he doing something dodgy? Because I'm not. But people have accused me of it, so that's why I've dedicated this much time to this particular section. People in the comments will come along and go, oh, you're buying likes. No.
Well, don't blame me, because I don't like spam.
I don't like spam either. It ruins my statistics. But the likes I don't care about in statistical terms, so I get less annoyed by it. Unless it causes me some detriment with YouTube, which hopefully they're more wise to it than me having to do a fair bit of research. I would hope YouTube are way ahead of me on that in that regard. But it's just an explanation that I feel like needs to be given, because it's about the 6th or 7th time it's happened. And you're like, first couple of times I just wave them away. You make a minor mental note of it. By about the 6th or 7th time it happens, you're like, I've got to figure out what's going on here. There's something very wrong. And there's got to be an explanation. I don't like not knowing why something like that occurs, because it's not just a glitch. But yeah, as I say, I think it is just down to somebody, God knows who, I'm never going to figure that out, has bought subscribers and has subsequently gone, look, my interaction's still really low. I'll buy a load of likes. Okay, well, good for you, whoever you are, and good for you, whoever's selling them. More power to you if it makes you, pay the bills. But the point I'm going to make in this regard for people who accuse me of buying them, I'm here to make a living. So the idea of spending the money I get in on false views is absurd. Because what I want to do is increase the views, because that will increase the money that comes in. So there's no way that that's ever going to go the other direction. The street comes towards me for money. I'm here for a living. So I'm never going to reverse the direction of that flow of money back towards YouTube. Sorry, YouTube, but no. And even in this instance, it's not even YouTube that are getting the money out of this. It's just some guys in the Far East. From what I can ascertain, it might be some other part of the world, but my point is the same. In case anyone thinks I'm pouring scorn on the Far East, I'm not. I'm just saying that somebody somewhere is charging for this service, and so they don't get caught, they random spam like other channels that aren't directly the only channel, because presumably they get caught out if only one channel has only that 4,000 random accounts only subscribe to that one channel. It's presumably much more obvious for you to catch them out. So, like I say, that was an hour or two of research that I'll never get back, just so I could explain this to my audience, who occasionally leave comments going, buying likes. No, I'd rather buy food for my children. Definitely not. Anyway, that's enough of that rant.
Right, and it wouldn't work anyway as a flat earther, right? Because we are getting cut down. We are getting gate capped by Google. So buying from them is not going to yield what it normally would if you were free, right? Because, hey, you, as some random YouTuber about a non-scary subject, right? You could do that and then like really grow out very quickly. And it works because they're not being gate capped. But for us, that doesn't work at all.
Well, what I would say about it is, I understand, Nathan, that you're very specific about your statistics, because you want to be able to know and you want to be able to rely on the statistics, to know exactly how many views you're getting and what is the watch time and all those things. So you don't want some nonsense that you can't actually rely upon, right? I get that, but I think that you end up explaining it to the audience because over the years you have so many ballers attacking you with false claims that you're doing this and you're doing that. So you instantly feel the need to explain yourself to your audience because you're expecting attack from the ballers claiming that you're buying likes or you're doing this or you're doing that. You don't need to do that anymore. Who cares what they think? They'll buy likes just so they can attack you with it. It means nothing. Who cares what these losers think? They don't matter. I couldn't give a damn what they say about me. Within reason.
No, I like your attitude. I completely agree. And your attitude I love, and it's rubbing off on me. I've got to be honest, Brian. So, but on that note, I've got to round out this live show. So with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. Another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!